It is a long way from Germany to come over, and I'm really happy that I have the chance here to do. And thanks you, Victoria, for inviting me here. It was a plan already 5 years ago. Then Corona came, and so we had to put this to sleep. But now I'm here, and I'm talking about breeding Corydoras. Is that good now? Yeah? Okay. Thank you. Because I think normally in an aquarium club there's some lads that are breeding. Those guys are really nerdy. They know everything, probably also better than I. And then you have a majority of people who are not so interested because they just have a tank or two. And I guess it is a mix of this here. So I will not pester you with too much theories and so on. I want to show you some beautiful pictures of my beloved Corydoras, and of course for that reason I have to go to South America with you. As I mentioned earlier, I've been on about 50 collecting trips over the past 35-40 years to South America, and mainly in the Amazon, and some trips also to the southern, a little bit colder areas, and it was always Corydoras involved. I collected more than 200 different species of Corydoras. I collected the data and I tried to support the science. I was also supporting scientists by sending out pictures. For instance, this Corydoras guapore once was the title of a scientific magazine, and I'm also breeding them if I can get hold on any new species, and I bred more than 150 different Corydoras catfish. So I do this since I was a teenager, starting with the usual bronzy corys and whatever the salt and pepper ones and stuff like this. And now I'm up to also the delicate stuff, and this is what I really like. Finding something new, trying to find out how it works, and then try my best to make them spawn. And before I do this, I have to torture you a little bit. Maybe the Corynoids, but the majority will not have seen this. That looks complicated. But I don't want to go into detail. What I want to show you is that was a paper, a scientific paper in 2011, have been published by people that did genetic research. They did so-called DNA sequence analysis, and they found out that we have 9 different lineages of Corydoradinae catfishes. This is the subfamily of the Callichtids, and we all knew this. Those that breed Corydoras know there are babies and fish completely different from each other. They cannot belong to one and the very same genus. There must be a genetic difference. And that was the first genetic proof. We had the proof for the morphometrics already since long. I can even recognize a genus by looking at a 2-week-old baby fish, because they are so different. And that was the first step. And then that big step just a month ago, 1 or 6 weeks ago, there was a scientific paper coming out where a lot of scientists, mainly Brazilians, that did this paper, and they now finally revised the whole subfamily Corydoradinae. And keeping those 9 lineages in mind, they had made some new generic names. These names are not so new. They have been there because older scientists 100 years or longer ago already recognized by the morphometric data that these guys are different. But other following scientists said, oh, it's all Corydoras. Just lumped it, and now they split it again. And this is what we are talking about today. We have actually now 7 different genera of Corydoradinae catfishes. So I know how it feels, because I'm used to say Corydoras to everything. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. And now I tell the people this is Hoplizoma. They look at me like, what? Of course. But you will recognize the differences by just quickly going through. This is in the strict sense what we know as a Corydoras. And this is a fish with a so-called saddle snout. Why is it? Because the very first Corydoras ever been described was one of this kind. Corydoras Geoffroy from French Guiana. And this is all this type, and they are very, very popular amongst Corydoras friends. Many people keep them in aquarium and breed them. And those are about 30, 40 species we have in the hobby, at least in Europe and America. And that is what we call the strict sense Corydoras. Second is also something easily recognizable because they are small, maybe only your centimeters here, right? 3 to 5 centimeters, quite small fish, nice to look at, and very active. Journal. They are swimming about all day, making me crazy. It's almost like barbs. I hate barbs, I must say, because they're making me nervous. Up and down, left, right, up and down. It's too much. I like catfish. I like to look at tails just wiggling in a cave. That's the maximum of activity I can stand. So I do not keep so many of these Aspidoras, lineage 2. Lineage 3 is something that is coming only from a very restricted area in Brazil in the southeastern coast. It's the Scleromystax Corydoras, or Scleromystax is big fish like Barbados. Do you have this species here in Australia? Is it popular? I think so, yeah. They like it a little bit colder, so maybe you can put them out in a pond here in Melbourne, maybe, or some places. Very nice fish, huge, sometimes really big fish, up to 10 centimeter or more. Only a few species, maybe 6 described species and a few forms, so we know in the hobby. The fourth group was something, the lineage 4, was something I was expecting to get another name, because there was a scientist in the 1950s, he named his status, this particular fish here, as microcorydoras. And so I was expecting they will use microcorydoras for the tiny ones, for the dwarfs. But they did not. They lumped the lineage 4 with the lineage 5 into Gastrodermus. This is a very old name. This is a name already been published in 1876, I think, by Albert Günther, and being lumped back to Corydoras. But available for all these, we call them egg-shaped elegans group. Very beautiful little fish like this 1, 2, 3s here. Beautiful, not shy, very productive, only breeding 2 or 3 times a year, then they make a little break and then they continue. Beautiful ones, well known in the hobby. The same with that. This is the pepper and salt, and that was lineage 6. Lineage 6 originally was also thought to be something different, which is not. Actually, it is obviously very close to lineage 9, so they lumped lineage 6 and lineage 9 into a name called Hoplizoma. This is also a name by Mr. Swainson in 1838. He invented this name. In a little book, 2 little books actually, I do have copies of those. I'm very proud owner of these, and there's only 3 sentences mentioning the name Hoplizoma as a new generic name for punctatus, and that's it, but it's valid now. So we have this name for all the round-headed, those that are very, very popular and build the majority of cories. Bronzicories, we have them there in the styrofoam box. These are now belonging to a genus called Osteogaster, also a very old name. And finally, something more complicated. The lineage 8 was broken up into 4 subclades. That's a taxonomical word term. But in the end, they were very close genetically. But if you have a closer look, you can see the difference. This is what everybody would recognize as a brochis, right? Chunky, metallic, greenish fish. And this is something very rare, only from the basin, the upper Rio São Francisco basin in Brazil. Difluviatilis and Garbe, stuff like this. Only 3 species involved. Outgroup, absolutely, but closely related. Reticulators, Sodalis, are common fish in the aquarium hobby. You can buy them in pet shops. Even here, I saw them just recently in a pet shop here in Australia, so they are obviously allowed to be imported. Also now a brochis. And then you have all these pointed snouties one. All these with the pointed snouts also, and this is a huge group, also now brochis. Sounds strange. Maybe they will split up these three here into separate genera. That is going to happen most certainly, but not for the moment. So be glad it's only 7 names you have to know, not more. And yes, this is Punctatus, Hoplysoma, lineage 9, the big group. All these fish that we like so much, panda, Weitzmannii, all these popular aquarium fish. They are now Hoplysoma, Hoplysoma punctatus, and so on and so on. I'm trying to get used to that terms. Many people were just like reluctant to learn new names, of course. For us, as maybe say, Cory nuts, it was obvious many years. And finally, it is now come true. That's all for the moment for you guys, because I think you just have heard about it. Maybe you forget about it when you're driving home. Maybe you already forgot about it when you see the football match tomorrow night, whatever. But for me, I did my duty just to tell you, because this is something I've been waiting for many years, actually. Good. Something that we can talk about, because I've traveled them intensively, is biotopes. You should know that when I was a kid, 13, 14 years old, I had my first Corydoras, and it was an old gentleman that invited me to his fish room, and he showed me around. He said, oh, these are bronzicories, and these are salt and pepper. I take them out of the tank, I take a cold tap, put them under the cold tap water, and tomorrow they will spawn. Oh, I said, wow, cool. But you can do this with the salt and pepper, because it's coming from a very cold area. You can't do this with the fish from Amazon. I learned this very quickly. So when I was a kid, everything was easy. We had 5 to 10 species, and they were just easy or not easy or unbreedable. So in the 1980s, for instance, everybody was saying, when you read the old, the Mergus Aquarium Atlas, these old big books, Mergus, that was something, and the Cory section was breeding, underbreeding, not known. And now today, 40 years later, I think we know everything, almost everything, about all the species, because there's a huge community of people. And why? Because we've been traveling. We've been writing articles, books about the biotopes of the fish that we breed, that we keep, and we learn so much about it. And this is something that I always recommend when you buy a new species of fish and you are thinking about reproduction. You should invest a little bit of time to investigate about the needs or even the climate that this species is living in. It's always helpful. And this is the huge Amazon basin, and the majority of all these Corydoras. I mean, we are talking about roughly 500 different species of fish. That's a lot. They cannot be all the same. Impossible. But in every basin, in every river basin of the Amazon, these here, the lowlands, and also on the Guyana Shield, and in even this part, and later on I show you also pictures here, there are Corydoras in almost every river. These here is the Amazon and the main affluents. They have more than exactly 100 rivers, affluents to the Amazon, longer than 2,000 kilometers. Just to give you an idea. That's if you take Australia, you can put it in there, and just for comparison, how few rivers you have in Australia compared to that Amazon. So I can start now again. Give me a time machine, put me back 50 years, but with all the equipment and all the knowledge I have today, and let me start again. And I tell you, I will find another 200. It's going on and on and on. It's an endless story. And I spend a lot of time just learning where they come from, and I just anticipate what they need to keep them well in aquarium. So one factor is the seasonal changes. In the Amazon itself, you do not have a season in itself. You have a high water and a low water season. Why? Because it's the inner tropical zone, and you always have the same level of temperatures and level of rains every day. But in the affluents, in the north or in the south, you have, of course, different seasons, and that causes different tidal changes. So every 6 months it's completely different. This is the Rio Araguaia from above, and you can see very well these huge riverbanks here called Vazia in Brazilian, and this is at the peak of the dry season. Did you notice the latest news about the Amazon basin? Have you heard about? They have a really huge drought. We've been there last year and it was incredible. All the other boats were just on the ground. There was no water left, and it's even worse this year. So they have a very severe drought now in the moment. And this is the same river 3 months later, 4 months later. So the water comes from the affluents, and these are the differences. You see March and you see July. 4 months in between, and a completely different world, completely different water chemistry and everything. And fish need this to be triggered to getting spawning. This is something which everybody should know. When we as an aquarist keep our fish, we always want to do the very best to them. And I very often receive requests like, Hans, I'm giving the best to my cories. I'm feeding them tubifex for the last 6 months every day, and they are really big and fat. And I say, yes, stop this. Don't throw cake at them every day. If you eat cake every day, you look like them. And you're not really motivated to have sex. So these fish need difference in the seasonal changes. It's something very important, and they do not eat so much. So sometimes a lot, sometimes almost nothing. Just keep that in mind. This is the difference, the low water, and this is where the water can go to. And in some areas like the Rio Madeira, 16 meters difference. 16. That's a lot. And here we have another thing, another very low water. And when you have clear water, one biotope I want to show you, most cories come from clear water. Some come from so-called white waters, turbid, murky waters. But clear water, it's clear if it is not disturbed by aquarists catching fish. So if you're just very slowly going under and go snorkeling, you can see this is a typical biotope. So if somebody is telling you biotope aquarium has to look like a beautiful aquascape setup, I say, well, it's art. It's got nothing to do with nature. This is nature. So what you do is just squeeze a filter foam in your tank. Then you have something like a biotope aquarium. There's a lot of food available for the fish, and you have to search for them. And cories are cryptic fishes. So they have a camouflage pattern on the body so that a kingfisher cannot see them so easily in the clear water. And so you can see, for instance, those little ones. This is a Hoplysoma swimming happily all about, CW62. And you can see them feeding only on the debris here and chewing everything, but they are not sticking their nose into the sand. And you can see them swimming together in pairs, and sometimes you see a different species, obviously, because it's got a completely different head shape, shoaling together. And they do this for some reason. The more the happier, the less a kingfisher can pick you. And this is the reason for them shoaling, sometimes in huge groups. And these here are feeding on a different food source. If you have a closer look, this guy here is looking down, and this guy is looking here for the debris. And if you can see the real Corydoras here with a long snout, he can dig deep into the ground and get some worms out of there. And his body here, he's not in the position. He doesn't do it. He's feeding on the little stuff. You should know this. So sometimes you can feed them worms, and they say, yeah, I've never seen a worm before, but it tastes good. Like like cake. And so you feed them wrongly if you only feed them on that. But this is something we are talking about later on. Let's go to the Rio Madeira. You see all these rivers. I've been telling you about the water masses coming up, rains all over here in the headwaters here and all the mountains. Loads of water pressing into the system. And you have some so-called seasonal lakes. This is all flooded. Why? Because, for instance, this is the mighty Rio Purus here, and these are all these lakes. They are building up when the water level is just rising a lot, and there's so much water that the river channel itself cannot pump all the water into the Rio Amazonas itself. The Amazonas is a mighty river of sometimes 10 kilometers in width. If you've never been there, you won't believe it. It's huge. And so the water is flowing right away downstream, and it's very difficult for the water just to get in. So they are building some lakes here, and this is all flooded. That means that there's an interchange between all these little rivers, and species can migrate, and this is what they do. And some species are being born maybe mid-river, upriver, floating down as a tiny baby in huge groups and shoaling and feeding here in these flooded areas. There's a lot of food available and they grow fast enough. And this, for instance, is a lake with Lago Coari, Lago Badajoz, Lago Tefe. All of us that read regular articles have read these names before. I've been to all these places, by the way, and it was always the same situation. In the high water season, it's huge. It's so much food available, and at some spots, you collect Corydoras or Brochis or whatever you name them now, only at that period, because they are migrating in big shoals. Poicher, we've been discussing Poicher earlier. They are being collected exactly only at the high water time, only when they are maybe only 6-8 weeks old, and they grow fast. And then they come to us in the pet shop, and they do not grow so fast anymore because they're not getting the same conditions. But to breed them, you have to change, right? This is something you have to keep in mind. And this is one of these lakes, and you see the water is flooding over the edges of the lake or of the river, lots and lots and lots of food. And this is the Lago Ayapuya, and we have these Corydoras. No, now it is Hoptisoma colossum. It is an undescribed Brochis species, and it is Osteogaster equus. Beautiful fish. Is this equus in the hobby here in Australia? Yeah. This is one of these fishes that you never know how to breed them. They do it or not. It's funny. And I still didn't have found the key. I bred them, but I cannot tell you how it goes.
What about CW51?
Yeah, the same, yeah. And these are the fish that we've been talking about, all these types of Poicher and whatever. And here, this CW28. These are all the fish that are migrating in that area. And we get them when they are still youngsters, only 2 months, 3 months old. And they are, when you breed them, you see how fast they can grow. So it's a very special fish. They need the changes, and the parents need to migrate. That is the key. Good. Another thing, going to the headwaters and having a look at the headwaters. This is the temperature. And this is still Amazonia. And in Amazonia, there's absolutely no change, right? There's always a stable condition. You don't have any ups and downs. Here, this is the temperature level. Maybe it's going down below 20. This is air temperature, by the way. So the water is not affected by this. And the water is actually sometimes very, very warm. And you sometimes you only find these rest water puddles here in the dry season. This is in the Acre Basin. It's pH 5.5. It's only 28 microsiemens TDS. This is extremely soft. What is your tap water here? Is it soft?
35 sometimes. Depends where you are.
I'm jealous. And how do you buffer the pH here? With chlorine or what? Oh, okay. So, and it's warm. It's an affluent little rainforest affluent, 26.8 degrees. Just to give you an idea. Some Corys are breeding only when it's warmer. Some are only breeding when it's cooler, actually. And these are the 3 species that we collected together in one spot. There's one, everybody knows. This is our Hoptistoma similis, a widespread, wonderful little fish, easy to recognize, easily breeding, just a no problem fish and a beauty, by the way. The Corydoras urastigma is a little bit more delicate. They like a little bit more current, but they are in the same spot. And this one is a really hard nut. I never managed to breed them. I tried really hard. It's a fish that came in only a few times. I collected my own group, so that sounds arrogant, but I collected my own group just by chance because I got them, right? And I did anything. Even I tried to copy everything, but I did something wrong, obviously. So I'm not somebody who says I know everything. Even I do not know sometimes how it goes. But this is good because that keeps me going, right? And it's not like just, come on, another one. It is sometimes really nice, and success is really nice for me. Maybe for you guys too. When you have a new fish, you breed a new fish, you feel good. Almost like as good as when your favorite team won, or maybe even better. Just depends on your passion. For me, it's soccer, actually. So.
You often find, like there, you've got 3 different genera.
Yeah.
But with very similar
yes. It's there's different opinions. Actually, you can say it's a mimicry, so a copy, a Batesian mimicry. But for what reason and who is copying whom? You don't know. So it's only theory, but it is found that, for instance, this one, the urastigma, here in the middle, is going in the Rytron, right there where the river flows, down. Those buggers here, by the hundreds, are dwelling over the sandbanks. And those, you only catch when a big scene, when you get them all out. And between 200, you have one. So there must be more because they are reproducing, at least somehow. But we don't know yet exactly what is going on. And maybe that is the key, when you finally know how to do it, right? But it is a very, very rare fish. Let's go to Peru. I've been to Peru 10, 15 times, one of my favorite collecting countries, because it's so diverse, and especially the Madeira system. This here is the Rio Madeira. That's huge. It's 2,500 kilometers long. And latest research brought up more than 1,200 different species of fish. How many fish does Australia have? The whole continent? Yeah, so lots. And 1,200 species endemic to the Madeira Basin. That's ridiculously lot. There's so many. And we find more and more each time. And one big affluent is the Rio Madre de Dios, the mother of the gods. And this is where we go to. This is Puerto Maldonado, a small town. I've been there 3 or 4 times. And this is the Madre de Dios. And we've been collecting in that area here in the sub-Andean region, for instance. And you can see rivers like this, rainforest, and it is a very low water area. Now it's, I think, what was it, June? No, it's later. It was August, September. And you can see this is a nice idea for an aquarium background, right? That's a good kind of an aquarium. I like these roots and so on. Beautiful. If you decorate a tank like this, you will never get any fish out anymore. They will stay there forever and ever. But you see, you go there in, and then here there's a little effluent. You can see normally in the high water season there's water coming in from this, spilling in from a little quebrada. This is the name for these creeks that dry out to some parts, but there's always some rest water puddles left. This is the Rio Gamitano, the big river, and the Quebrada Santa Maria, 54 microsiemens, which is still very low. And and this is interesting because that area is like your summer, your winter. So in June, July, it's getting colder. And this is only 19 degrees Celsius. You should know that, because these species are absolutely opposite of others. Where we would expect a very dry puddle, a restwater puddle like this, is holding a hot water, warm, very warm water with hundreds of fish that are just waiting for the rain to come. But it's colder actually, it's getting very cold sometimes. Well, it's getting also in September, so a few months later, it was 25 degrees 1 year later. Same spot, more or less, and even less water. And you have fish there that look perfectly well, because Corydoras can swallow air and breathe atmospheric air into their blood system. That's their advantage compared to other fish. So when you have such a restwater puddle, you have plenty of these brochis and cories and so on, and you have a few piranhas you can easily recognize here and here. They bite out something of them, and a few other fish, but most of the other fish like tetras and all that, characins, they just been eaten up by the kingfishers and by the piranhas. But you have a big group of other fish, and especially cories. In that little puddle, we collected hundreds of Corydoradinae catfish. We collected this Brochis CW136. We collected the CW97, something like an Osteogaster or Aeneas type. We collected also the Corydoras itself, Corydoras acutus, and we collected a Hoplysoma, all happily together in that little puddle, the C120. And we also, the next genus, we collected a little Gastrodermus. So they can all be together. And when you do this at home now, wait 3-4 months without any water change, and then you start water changing. You will see how they start feeling good, feed different stuff, and then they start spawning. Sometimes they need that trigger. We're talking about triggers later too. Yeah, and this is how they look when you get them out of the water. And 3 weeks later in the aquarium, they look like this. They color up. Nice fish, nice surprise for a change. Because I'm known in Hamburg for being the guy with the gray fish. So people are very careful when they're talking to me and asking, Hans, the fish that you offer, are they Hans fish? I mean, gray stuff, or are they really beautiful? So sometimes it is like this, yeah. Okay, let's jump over still with the biotopes and go to the southern part of South America. We have the big Paraguay-Paraná system. Actually, it is a huge system here. This is the Rio Paraguay, and this is the Rio Paraná. They are joining here at the Rio de la Plata around Buenos Aires. And all this system, all here with the very same species. So not a huge diversity like in the Amazon basin, but huge quantities of fish. And all these are very easy to breed, for instance. And you can see that they have a similar, because it's the southern hemisphere, they have the similar climatic diagram like you guys here. So you have an air temperature that is going down in June, July, August, down to 12 degrees Celsius at night, and at day maximum maybe 20, 22. So completely different to our northern hemisphere. And when I give talks to aquarists, normally in the northern hemisphere, in the States or in Europe, people won't believe that these fish that they come from there, they just need a cold water period of dry water, because it's also, if you see this here is Iguazu, this is Sao Paulo, it's getting cold and it's not raining very much. It's raining later when the temperatures are rising. And these are flooded areas. Do you have in the Paraná and Paraguay system, you have huge floodplains, huge, thousands of square kilometers. And the fish can migrate. That is the reason why those fish are actually very widespread. And this guy here is a friend from Norway, and this is actually at the end of the dry season, and this guy is standing in a pond, and there's only 2 centimeters of water left. It's hot, Uruguay. Hot, the water's burning down, the temperature was 30-40 degrees water. It's in between the water lilies. We collected some Corydoras, 4 different species of Corydoradine catfish in such an extreme biotope. There's the Undulatus gastrodermus, the Hastatus, we have a Hoplysoma longipinis, and we have one of these Aeneas types. So you can see they can stand really, really rough conditions. Don't do it at home. You can see this. I do it, but I don't publicly state that because then the vet will knock my door and say, "What are you doing with your fish?" Sometimes I take a group of corys or whatever, especially calichtis and something like this. And if they don't want to breed, I put them in a bucket and I forget about them for 3 months, 4 months, no changing of water, nothing. And then putting them in a tank and then hello it goes. Yeah, it's sometimes fun. Okay, enough for the theoretical part. Are you still with me? Yes, okay, not too much theory. Now let's talk practically. Now let's talk how we can decorate a tank, for instance, so that the Corydoras feel well. This is a Corydoras biotope tank, I would say. Some tetras in it, a lot of bugwood, fine sand. These things do not like turquoise pebbles. And you can go somewhere at a creek and you collect some roots and put that in, just check the wood. Some is poisonous, toxic, but you know that better than I because you live here. But you can, this is all decorated just from the outside. I go with a dog somewhere in the forest, I take my stuff and put it in my tanks. And I always use fine river sand because it's roundish. You can even do it like this. I like aquatic plants. So I have a lot of tanks where I grow out fish, and sometimes I put a species, as so-called species dedicated tanks. I only have one group of corys in there, and I use a lot of plants just because I love crypts, for instance, and other stuff. And I also use, this is a typical dedicated breeding tank, so I have the flower pots I can take out when I need to take the fish out, and I have a mop, spawning mops. You're used to that, I think. You're using the same here. And some of these fish, they are just happy together with it, and sometimes all of a sudden a baby shows up, like these paralelos here. That was the first time I bred paralelos in 2002. I was happy as a boy can be, because that was a very expensive and very rare fish at that time, and I was finally happy to, now they are going, and they did. The Sipaliwini, some relatively new fish from Suriname, the same. Sometimes babies just coming up. You don't need to do anything. If you do not want to produce hundreds and hundreds of Corydoras, and just for yourself, just decorate the tank the way that they feel well, and that they are not eating the eggs. If they're not eating the babies. I put in some leaves. So now it's coming up here. I don't know what kind of trees you guys have here. We are using oak and beech trees. I've seen some oaks in the park today, so you have oak. And this is just covering the ground so the babies can just hide under it. I show you later how much you can do with them. And sometimes they need strong current, so you put a pump in, aqua bee, current pump, whatever, for not all the time, maybe only to trigger them. This is Corydoras fulleri, named after Ian Fuller, the one that we collected together in 2014 in Peru. This is one of these typical fish that if you keep them in a bigger tank, maybe 1 meter to 50, with a lot of oak leaves and everything and bogwood and so on, yeah, there will be babies coming up right away after a while. You don't need to do anything. Some feeding is some very interesting factor. I talked about the cake. This is one of these boys that a friend gave me, and they said, "Oh, who ate all the pies, right?" And that was way too much, but this is the boy. The girl was like this. And he was complaining, saying, "Hans, they don't breed." I say, "I wouldn't." I didn't feed them for 3 months, nothing. And then I started again, and then off they went. Very well going, everything I want. So they delivered eggs, no problem. This is too much, way too much. So 3 times a day, flake food or something like this. High proteins, it's not good, it's too much. Yes, now one important part is how to tell the boys or the girls from the boys. It's very easy. You know that corys are breeding. When they are breeding, they are doing the so-called T position. The male is going in front of the female and with his pectoral spine. He's trying to grab the barbels of the female. That is the indication for the female to let out some eggs, and he's in that part. You can see him shiver. He's letting out the sperms. They float around, and she's building a pouch with a ventral fins. And into this pouch, you can see sliding in some eggs. And you can see that girl here. She has eggs in her pouch. Left is the boy, right is the girl. More chunky. Most of the time, girls grow a little bit bigger. And this is a boy of Corydoras EVERS. And you can see the ventral fins of many, many species in the males are elongated and pointed. And the girls, because they have to build the pouch, these ventral fins are more rounded. So that is the easiest way to sex, as we say, sex the corys, I would say. Yeah, food. Food is already mentioned a little bit. I love Daphnia. I bet you have Daphnia. I bet you have a pond somewhere here in Melbourne where you can go and collect your Daphnia. Or is there somebody at you and prohibiting collecting live food? No. Not yet. Yeah, in Germany it is like this already. So I'm discussing very often.
National park, not allowed to collect, but otherwise there's no restrictions.
Yeah, in the tropics you normally have a problem that there's always fish in, but here it's temperate, and so I think there's many ponds without any fish, or just a few, doesn't matter. Daphnia is my main food for corys, so because it's a lot of fiber, not so much protein and fat. And this is an everyday's food. I remember I told you how they live in the nature. They go along and they are searching all day for little things, little crustaceans, little things that are living in the mud, in the debris, and this is how they go. Sometimes a worm, but not every day a shovel full of tubifex. They have to, but only in the spawning season. So change the food. For instance, breeding white worms is a good thing, because tubifex are very often. Do you have tubifex here? Yeah. So they come from waters which are not the cleanest. So I have some corys I do not feed with any tubifex, and that grows very, very well. They don't need it. But chunky fish like brochis, they love tubifex. And these guys, when they start after a period of 6 months, no water change, 6 months, a little bit cooler, and then starting, and then they look from gray, all of a sudden they turn really pinkish at the belly and greenish after 2-3 weeks of feeding heavily. Heavily feeding for such a group of brochis. This was a brochis species, grew up to 15 centimeter. I had a group of 8, and I fed every day a handful of tubifex and 1 liter of Daphnia alive. It was snowing in the tank, as we say. So it was really snowing, and when the snow cleared up, I threw some tablets in. So, but this only for that particular few weeks in the year when they start from the dry season. Now the water's rising, food everywhere available. Let's start breeding. Differences, and this is a girl which is not being overfed by cake. This is right in the period of reproduction when you have very well functioning. This is a Corydoras Habitat. It's a nice species from Argentina, and when they go for a period of 3-4 months, and in that you can feed them really well, and she's full of eggs. That's not fat, this is eggs, and 2 days later she's skinny again, and she let off 500-600 eggs. Sometimes they can be very productive. So important, the right food is the main factor for success. Quantity, quality, and the seasonal changes. Keep that in mind, because some corys are so easy you don't need to do anything special. Others are recommending exactly this. Yes, and many can just do it like out for nothing. And there was a very nice cooperation between Aquarius and Hobby. Corydoras World is a website run by Ian Fuller, and I'm cooperating with Ian. Some of you might know this. We try to help also scientists. So we did fundraising, crowdfunding for some scientists in Brazil and sent them out with the money that we collected to collect fish for description. And they finally described 3 new species a few years ago. The Thanatos, the Hypnus, and the Psamatos. Okay, nice fish. But they were on the hunt to find one fish which is still not being found by scientists in the nature. And this is that one. And this is, of course, a very beautiful fish. And I just heard $800 here in Australia for offspring. So I could be a rich man, I show you. The only problem is how to get last year I bred 400 of them. So should make me a rich person, but maybe you can get them for 500 then, just because I have so many.
No, the fishermen haven't revealed where they collect them
The
from.
fishermen do not tell the locality because they don't want to let them know.
Yeah, they don't want to lose their
Yes, they
breeds.
don't want to lose and publish the right place. So we still do not know, but they are very easy to breed, and this is the good news. I think that in a few years' time, these will be also on the list for Australia, and then you will recognize they are really not difficult. And I hope that works now, because sometimes it's not. Yeah, it works. This is how they spawn. You see. Oh yeah, one important thing. Yes, the right music. Yeah. In my place, it's actually death metal. No, I don't know actually what it is. You see the male, and now the 3 males competing. What a beautiful fish, right? And you have seen the female putting her eggs up there. You can leave them in the tank with the parents. This is one of the species I never fed any tubifex to, because these come from clear water rivers and bacterial impact is killing them. So obviously, I buy some tubifex, some worms for them, because they are my precious. You kill your precious by throwing toxic stuff into the tank. So I just leave them and only feed them with banana worms and microworms. Do you know microworms? Very tiny. I bred them by myself. And baby brine shrimp, so very small food. Cyclops, frozen cyclops, frozen daphnia, live daphnia, a lot of live daphnia. And then you can just leave them, the parents, the group you've seen. And now I show you the result of 6 weeks breeding in that particular tank, just to give you an idea how productive they can be. Any Corydoras. Those are cute, yes, yeah.
And they don't need the rain.
No, and they don't need the rain. Just constant, because they come from headwaters, always constant, nice conditions. That's the key. But you have to know where they are from. And I know at least they come from an area where there's no big changes. But it's also an area which has very, very clear, very good spring water. So that is the key. Water changes. I use rainwater and change every week 30 to 50% with them. And that was actually the thing. A second species of that, also one of those new posh species, my heart beats faster when I see them. I thought they must be big fish. They look chunky and big, like these Corydoras. Actually, they are a hoplysoma. They have this roundish head. And when I first saw them, I said, "What? Still babies? Only 3 centimeters, not larger." In the picture, you think it is a 5-6 centimeter fish. It's not. It's this tiny one, really, really tiny. And another important thing is that this here, the bigger one, is the boy, and the girl is smaller. And when they do, here you can see it, she's got eggs on her belly, and the roundish, I told you, the ventral fins. And he was always sitting. That is the boy. He's the boss in the tank. Just a little fish of 3 to 4 centimeters. But you can see here, this is a T position, and you can see he's got a little beard. So he's got some odontodes on the chest, on the chin, and on the head side. Beautiful little fish. And the same way they breed of course, when you have such a precious fish, expensive fish, you collect the eggs. And it was not so successful, but it was much more successful just to leave them with the parents. And then they grow up together, and this fish is only 6 weeks old and looks like a copy of Daddy and Mommy, and is already almost a centimeter in size. So they grow fast, and they grow even nicer and faster when you leave them with the parents. But also, no tube effects, only clear and always good water quality. That's the secret. And we've been talking about another fish earlier this afternoon or this evening. This is Corydoras Habitat. And this is actually, for me, when I saw the picture of the first description that was here, I thought, no, cannot be, impossible. What is that? That is such a beautiful fish. It's a must-have. And of course, people were crazy about the fish. In the picture, you don't see it, but this is also a very small fish, only 3 centimeters in size. Very rare, even in nature, from remote places of the Madeira system. So it can well be that you only collect 5 to 10 fish per day when you're looking for them. They now found it in a different place, and all of a sudden they came to Europe and to Japan, and many people bought them for 500-600 euro each, one fish. I said I cannot afford this. That's a little bit too much for me, so I wait. But nobody bred them. They all killed them. And I felt extremely sorry because this is such a rare fish in nature too. And so I think better leave your hands off. And then I tried my method with leave them in the tank, settle down with catappa leaves, just leave them, good water, no tube effects, and just leave them, let them go and do their job, and they did their job. They have huge eggs here. These eggs are 2 millimeters in size, very big, for such a little fish of 3 centimeters. It's incredible. And the same people start like, oh, Hans, come on, I collect the eggs, and they hear the cash clinging, right? Ding, 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 another 100 euro. I say, no, I leave them with the parents. And I only sell offspring of those. I only sell to very well experienced people. And I always tell them, do it like this, then you have a guarantee. If not, let your fingers away from those. They are too sensitive. This is one of the fish I will not recommend for everybody. This is for cory nuts, really. And so another video just to show you. I have these 3 tanks just side by side, and it is a lot of joy for me. Another good music. This is Catatonia, by the way, I remember. This is the CW111s. Here are the Rick Buxer with the babies. You can see them, and it is brine shrimp, baby brine shrimp I'm feeding to get them out. A snail's grave, and you see these are the Hephaestus, also with babies all about. It is these little tank. This is 50 to 50, 30 centimeters, and the ones with the CW111 and Rick Buxer is only 50 to 30. Just it's tiny fish, and the key is water quality, changing, not neglecting them for 3-4 weeks, right? These are different. Fish like this need some effort. Corydoras, or now Brochis gerii, was a project of 8 months. No water change for 6 months, and then slowly pushing up and doing a lot. So sometimes you have it like this, otherwise it does not work. Others, like those, are easy. They are there. Everybody of you guys now are requested. If you want them, take them home. It's Ian Fuller, I mentioned him. He said, it was my very first cory that I bred. I brought them home and I didn't know where to put them. Sometimes you have it, and I put them in a 2-liter glass. Next morning there were eggs. So they are actually not really difficult. Male and female to the left. It's a little 2-centimeter fish. And for every beginner in the Corydoras breeding, just fantastic. Because they do it right away. The boys getting interested in the girls very soon. They do this all day. You can start with a group of 10. You leave them in a little 50 to 40 or something for a while, and you look into it 3 months later, it's 100. And they don't bother each other. Here they get to know each other a little bit closer. And then he's trying to do the T position. And you can already see the first eggs. And they are dropping only 1 egg per time. But they are so productive that it doesn't matter. Because if you do it every day, 5 times, after a while you have a lot of baby fish, right? So, and now another point is that kannst du mir mal ein bisschen Wasser holen, bitte? Another point is some species need a little trigger. And there can be so many different kinds of triggers just to get them going. You know they're good, looking good, but there's one little point, one little factor is still missing. You don't know what it is, so you try and here and there, and it works or it doesn't work. Dankeschön. And that can be, for instance, putting them from one tank into another one. Transferring very often triggers them to spawn. And there's many parameters you can do. This is just for instance, a new aquarium, different water parameters, soft water instead of hard water, different temperature, change in water movement, strong current, low current, change of food, and also the different light sometimes. I had it that I put away a group that just didn't do anything and put them in a dark tank somewhere, and next morning I saw the eggs. So maybe that was the trigger. You never know. And sometimes it works with the moon phase. You have had Eric Bodrock here. He's one of these guys. He's strongly recommending these things like moon phase or a storm. When a storm comes up, he's changing the water just to make them go. And very often it works. So look at your fish and try to find out, are they ready or not? Sometimes a group of cories is just coming up. I say they are coming up. They are looking well, they're feeding well, and all of a sudden you see them a little bit more active, coming up 5 centimeters, 10 centimeters higher in the mid areas and the swimming about. This is the way, then you can start with your activities like water changes or whatever. Do not rape them. Do not overdo. Do not change the water too much. If they don't want to do, they don't want to do. And some species, if you do it, they do it once because you just rape them, and then they will never do it again. So, but I think when you get a feeling for these fish, you will recognize it. Watch them and look at them closely. And some of them have an inner watch, so they come from the wild caught fish, and they just still have the inner watch. Try at the same climate change area season, like they have in nature. Just try to copy that. These are some of the ideas, and that it worked with the brochis that I explained to you earlier. One of the most beautiful baby fish that one can imagine. Look at these, and at that size, and these here are 3 centimeters, 8 weeks old. They grow rapidly, and these are talking to each other. Brochis species, when they see each other, the babies, they are flagging. They are just up and down the dorsal fin. They're just sending signals to each other. Hi, and then they sit. They swim 2 centimeters. They sit down, flash the dorsal, and then stop. Just to recognize them. And for predatory fish, they appear much bigger. So a predatory fish will be maybe reluctant to eat them then because they appear a little bit bigger. And when you have eggs, what do you do with the eggs? You can leave them in the tank with the parents, as I told you, but some are very productive, some are eating the eggs, so you have to do something, and some of them are just not good. You can see here in that picture, you can already recognize this is a good egg, and this, and all the others are not fertilized. In the beginning of a season, spawning season, the males have to learn. So maybe also the eggs are old in the belly or in the stomach of the girls, and so maybe it takes a little longer. But after a while, you see they are good, they are developing. Daphnia, by the way, always good. And some of the non-fertilized will get fungused, and they will definitely not develop. And you can here see very, very soon you can tell the good ones from the bad ones. And I always take those out and only keep the good ones, so the fungus cannot attack the good eggs. Put them in the fresh water. I take tap water because tap water, drinking water is the cleanest you can get. There's the less bacterial load that you can imagine. Just a few pictures from a professional breeder. These people are using spawning mobs, and they have huge tanks, and this is a panda production. I can say panda production. They are producing, this breeding facility is producing 10,000 Hoplizoma panda per month. That's quite a few pandas. And when they come out of the eggs, the wrigglers, sometimes you have to help them. Here you can see he's struggling because probably the water is too hard. The eggshell is not soft enough to get out. Sometimes you have to change something like this. Check it out. And you can rear the fry in these little hangers. We have these little things that the boxes that we put in a tank. Those of you who only own 3, 4, 5 aquariums, this is the way. Just these little boxes where you can raise the fry easily. Here another little tank, and the babies, give them some shelter. These are the babies of those. And so you can produce many species that are being said are difficult, but just have a closer look as like how to tell all these different kinds of species apart. They have their particular needs. So not every cory is the same. That is something that we should know. And some look back into the nature. This is a so-called floating meadow in the Pantanal in Brazil. And this is where the babies are growing up. And when you go underwater, you see a lot of debris. And you see here, this is a cichlid. And here, under there, when you lift it, you find many baby fish that are growing up there. They are hidden well in this mud, whatever it is. And there are predators over them, so they have to be careful. Because these tetras, they will eat them most certainly. So what do I do? When I have no time, when I'm traveling, and even if difficult species, sometimes I just squeeze a filter. I put this in an extra tank. I take it out here and put it in, let it sink down like this, and then I put the hatchling in there. You can leave them for a week without feeding, because they find so much food in there that this is enough for the first days. So when you are out for a holiday and your precious delivered eggs, don't be desperate, just try it like this. It works very well. So you can see I have these little tanks on top of the bigger tanks. That works pretty well. Baby brine shrimp and microworms. And I'm using banana worms. That's a different kind of worm. Microworms are not so good, but banana worms work very well for little cories. And this is a look into the panda factory. It's incredible. Hundreds and thousands of tanks. And one important factor, we've been discussing this for cleaning. I have always bristlenose in my tanks. Bristlenose are easy to breed. They are very prolific. But the babies, I put in all the tanks, in the grow-out tanks, because they are cleaning the glass. And they're cleaning away the debris and the bacterial load from the glass. If you don't do this, it can happen that your little cories will get some fungus. I very often also put sand into it, because they like to sit on sand, not as much as they do like on, for instance, to sit on glass. They can lose the barbels, they can damage the fins, the melting of the fins, and so on. But using this, you can also produce thousands and thousands of Hoplizoma panda like these. Again, just some of the hints. I feed 2 to 3 times minimum baby fish. The more the better. I give them hiding places, not to stress them out. Babies need to hide out. Very often you see in breeding facilities big bare glass tanks with thousands of fish in there. There's no hideout, nothing. I tell them, put some hideouts in and they will grow faster, because they are not investing all the energy that they eat by just trying to swim away, but they just stay in the hide and they keep the energy for growing. And it's true. And we did it, and we checked it, and it worked very well, much better when you give them a hideout. Fine sand, even in the hanging boxes, often water change. The better water, the better. The more water changes, the better. And small ancestors, the bristlenose that I told you. And some species are not easy to mix. Sometimes it's not good to mix baby fish. Sometimes you only have 10 of this and 5 of this, and you just, I put them all together. It's not working every time. Some of these baby fish are sensitive to others, so you have to keep them, grow them up differently, separately. But not all of them. Some are easy, stabile, you can grow up with panda, no problem. But Corydoras, for instance, to grow out with a panda is not good, because the pandas are faster in the food, at the food. So something like this. Of course, you have to look. Sounds ridiculous, but from time to time, take a baby fish out, put him in a glass, and look against the light. Are all the fins correct? Is the bristles, the barbels all good? Then, okay. If not, something happens, and you don't see it because they are bottom dwellers, and you don't have a look all day at them. And the so-called pest control, you have planaria, hydra, and all these. Well, I hate so much. But these can damage and make you lose the whole generation, the whole flock of baby fish. Yes, one last story. I told you, I gave you a lot of hints. I gave you many, many tips. And this was one fish I was working with 5 years. 5 years of trial. And I did everything. I knew where they came from. I was diving there in that lake. I did everything. And Hoplysoma colossum, they did not do anything. A boy and a girl, and a very chunky, fat girl. So she was full of eggs. And nothing worked. So you know what I did? I just one good evening, I stood in front of the tank and I said, guys, I sell you tomorrow. Next day there were eggs. But don't tell this anybody, because it's my very own secret, right? This is the really last measurement you can do. And don't do it too often, then they stop believing. Okay, just to let you know, there's a book coming soon, 800 pages. We finally finished. We were ready to publish 2 years ago. Yes, and then Luis told me, Hans, you better not print this book now, because we will change all the names.
That means that you could have done 2 books instead of one.
Yeah, very good. It's a huge work, believe me. So we did it. Now we updated the nomenclature, so all the names are correct according to the latest paper. We put also in additional articles on ecology. I wrote a 30 pages article on ecology. Is more or less what I told you this night. The genetics. We also were discussing the poison glands. These fish have poison glands. You know, when they sting you, it can hurt. Not everyone, not every, but especially the spotted ones. And if it is under your fingernail, it's extremely precious. It lasts for a day or something. And also the stomach contents of wild-caught animals. We just were checking the stomach contents to see what are they feeding on. So it was a huge thing. More than 500 species involved, all the right thing. It's already in pre-sales by Ian Fuller, and I will have my copies maybe. Now we are going into print exactly next Monday. So they will be available very soon. So next time I come to Australia, I will order 2 extra bags and bring books. It's ridiculous. It will be around £60 or around €70, but the postage to Australia will be the double. It's really ridiculous. Okay, that was it. I hope you liked what I said. I hope it was not too long. Enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.